without wildlife.
Join me as we journey to the untamed wilderness of northern Ghana to meet these last offenders.
The people within the law enforcement agencies don't really know you're talking about a roan antelope. Somebody thinks it's just like a goat.
The International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM.
Good evening and welcome to Today on One. I'm Isai Sipunga. In the news tonight, Windhoek Mayoral Business Forum encourages innovation. Health Defense League launches in the capital. Messengers of God seek audience with the head of state. Kambinda shares expertise on poultry farming. And Roundup, Business on One, Comments Corner, Sports and the weather. Now for the news in detail. The city of Windhoek, together with the Namibia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, held its 5th Windhoek Mayoral Business Forum, first established in 2016 to strengthen linkages between the Windhoek Municipal Council and the business community for coherent planning and development of the city.
The city mayor at the engagement placed emphasis on economic architecture, noting that Namibia's economic outlook at independence was to attract foreign direct investment, adding that Windhoek should be positioned as a business-friendly city and encouraging innovation within the economy.
Even the colonial economy was designed in a particular way to achieve particular objectives. So if we don't have the architect of the economy, it basically means that whoever have designed whatever sector of the economy, it will remain. So when you just study our economy and try to understand exactly what was happening, the business people who operated before independence, most of them were operating on the design, on the architecture, on the drawings of that colonial economy with colonial logic and colonial objectives. You as business people, most of you are told about people who were selling biscuits and fish, catching fish in order for them to become millionaires. I did my doctorate in the role of illegal diamond in the development of Wamboland. All those business people that are said to have started from humble beginnings, the reality is that they were diamond dealers. They dealt in diamonds, and I'm proud of them as diamond warriors. Without the diamonds, most of Wamboland, most of Kavango would not have remained the way it is. So there was a particular generation of business people who understood the economic architecture, and they saw an opportunity and they went into those specific ventures for them to do what they did.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Namibia Chamber of Commerce and Industry noted that the Pitching for Resilience program that was run throughout the country aimed at assisting small and medium enterprises affected by COVID-19 pandemic benefited 340 SMEs who received grants totaling 1.4 million Namibia dollars.
Many of these economies that we like to give examples to, whether it's the Singapores or whether it's the Rwandas of today, they are where they are because their own local communities are supporting them, and they supported them. And there was leadership that was very decisive and made sure that they all consulted with each other to make sure that the decisions that we make were in the interests of our own communities. So if you are going to buy a bottle of water in Namibia because it costs $20 and because the difference is $7, it must go elsewhere. I mean, the logic. While some of these decisions might actually have happened because of the recession or the COVID pandemic, some of them really have to do with our own. So, Your Worship, you, the leaders that are more with the grassroots, as much as we speak of innovation to business and the responsibilities of government, even at local government level, I think we need to start sending the message to the consumers themselves.
Growth is walking side by side to open the future to new possibilities.
It means enabling Namibians to do more with all the new technologies that we introduce.
It's communicating so that all our stakeholders know what is possible for them on mobile, at home, and in the office.
It's answering the calls for people's desire to improve their lives.
It is making sure that each share that people buy into provides value.
Providing a space where growth can happen, giving people freedom to expand their horizons
in every way imaginable.
It is about increasing our capabilities and infrastructure so that Namibians can enjoy more connectivity as well as nature growth. It is indeed a future worth investing in.
We thank all Namibians for making our IPO a success. Thank you for showing that our future is worth investing in.
MTC, make the connection.
Joseph Parkman was in and out of prison, dealing and doing drugs. Then a drug deal went wrong. Joseph was robbed, handcuffed, and scared straight out of the business. For 6 months, he roamed the streets as a homeless addict. Then one night, in a baseball dugout, Joseph met a stranger who totally changed his life.
I stand in awe of the power of the God who's our creator. And Terry and I sit here on this program, and the Lord speaks to us, and it's the word of knowledge. It's one of the manifestations of the Holy Spirit.
Something not always godly.
Not always, that's right. Well, there's a lot of negative voices out there, as we
Yes, there are.
And
so how do you know when it's God saying, Perry, I want to speak this to you right now?
And sometimes you don't know. And I think you pray over it, and you think about it, and sometimes you just, a lot of times I'll just envision, as you and I are talking here today, I may envision that I'm here talking with God, and how am I supposed to address this issue?
Okay? Realize Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is the same for you right now. So let's pray. Let's call on his name and let him do the rest for you. Let's pray.
The Health Defense League at a media briefing announced that they are against mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations and that they are ready to support and defend any of its members who face discrimination, either at work or any other establishment, for refusing to take the COVID-19 vaccination. The Health Defense League feels most of the information given to the public since the COVID-19 pandemic hit Namibia is non-factual, and many citizens were not allowed to debate any COVID-19 related topics.
Namibia has gone through a spate of lockdowns, resulting in the destruction of businesses, economic operations, and individual careers. Most citizens are still not sure and are skeptical about who and what to believe. We have a pandemic of polarization and distrust. Actions presented by governments are random, do not make sense and contradict common thinking. Trust in government is at an all-time low. Citizens seek honest answers to their questions. This can only be found in open debate. We need open, uncensored debate without conflict of interest.
They say the government is not honest about most things surrounding COVID-19, and according to the League, what's even worse is the introduction of mandatory vaccines. The Health Defense League Steering Committee member Dr. Martin Vuger believes that the COVID-19 vaccinations are only trials and that there's no guarantee that it is safe.
We know also that today's issues, and we see it all the time, are not about specific medical procedures. It is a trial, and it says so. If you go back to the South African websites and you Google Sisonke, which was the old rollout of the human trial, it is a trial on humans that will only end in 2023. So let's keep in mind, if we recommend that to people, it is a trial.
Vuger suggests that the government refrain from making life and death decisions on behalf of the citizens and only establish the frameworks.
When we in the medical community, and we have got incredible, capable people with many years of experience, are in a situation where we have to fight to use a certain established drug to save the lives of our patients because our government all of a sudden doesn't allow that specific drug to be used on humans after many, many years of usage. And there are examples in that that you all know that have been in the press. Then there is something really wrong. The government is not the doctor. And the government, sadly enough, does not bear the ultimate responsibility for a person dying or not. It's normally the doctor who's very intimately involved with that decision.
Since news of mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations and employers allegedly suspending unvaccinated workers became known, many locals expressed frustration and disappointment, so much so that some held public protests.
You have heard how the head of state, through the Attorney General, when he told the employers of this country that they reserve the right to tell their workers to go for vaccine by force, and if they don't want, then they can be fired. That is what we don't want in this country.
We have a constitution in Namibia that all of us need to respect that. It does not matter who you are, whether you are up or down, rich or poor, educated or uneducated. You need to respect the constitution of Namibia. We have to understand.
The debate over whether vaccine mandates are constitutional is constrained by the Supreme Court's upholding of fundamental constitutional rights, such as personal liberty, human dignity, and the ability to conduct any profession, trade, or business. Despite the fact that the Labour Act supports vaccine mandates, Health Minister Kalumbi Shangula explained that the government issued an official policy decision to adopt voluntary vaccines as part of the national vaccination rollout program.
There is always a talk about my right to choose and to be vaccinated or not. Fair, that's fair. If you live alone. If you're alone in your desert without interaction with anybody, you have the full right to do so. But if you are interacting with other people, the fact that you are not vaccinated, you infringe on the right of those who wants to be protected from you.
The Health Defense League claims to be a voluntary, structured legal entity independent of its members. A group of 5, calling themselves Messengers of God, paid the Nampol Community Affairs Office a visit for assistance to be directed on how to pass on a message from God to the head of state, Hage Geingob. They claim to have received a message that COVID-19 is a punishment from God.
andalonge kalonga pashili ushiwana ushapukifa shashio obeli monjila ingaike kepangelo atangola pukifa aya andi apa natango kuja kon COVID-19 ya tamika natango kuliolo lange shipala ngo kashi olenge etine 14 domongo omongone shaka nikamo dropa mu ane chukene shaka nikoko kopieni spaka nda jongo mo dropa munda koinda mangwa molwa okamaska okwapange nale tungala kabucha ano takalongifa ameno olo dalike akucha olo ameno kwa shitashikia ashike balongela kucha amondea kubondiva amene ndabakakonga engono o ntongo kamasko natango oshikalunga shuline mo China
se tatum o tatekalungo petupa etu hololela takutiwa indenike pangero le turana mibia mokapo psheshina kona shano shima shomba no shongati osheshi otashi fa unyuni mekano ya otashi tingeipi neno hatujaru maska omoronki fi COVID-19 onki fi COVID-19 nenalo hatuvenba omoro onki fi COVID-19 hatucho vanhu vamwe vasiyano kuli konkifyo yetate kalunga taholola nekucha hanonkifyo tounyenge tate kalunga munyoni ilo toudulika konnu ngasi tatendanira ngaha olembera tutu kepo ushimangengo shatumo kutate kalunga shweshi hanonnomu kapena kuti shipatamo shipano eshefanera lakano tati amengi holu ulunde onda tondu ulunde pima kapena ulunde amo handuhana unabo
otohala tukwafelwe nombili nilandula fano opwetu mwalakali lifike diwa mushona tate kalunga opo vanu vapashukeo na tudo epopilo ku presidente popilo peli ala kuja ku presidente na shipianga bahale popilo tadi ku presidente la jemushiwana shishiwana asinyengwa tate kalungo ihanyengwa tapikine kucha president tetu nyamkulange pi yena tanyamkula kanyamkula kushirisha.
Nampol Chief Inspector for Community Affairs addressing the group informed them on why COVID-19 regulations are important to adhere to, why it has been put in place, and the duties of law enforcement during the pandemic.
Ilandura fano leli nekucha moshimango shamonike puko washitulwapo ilandura fano lasho shikererwe shiamene shikale inmeili monjina popo neta kutiwa vakote o COVID-19 anushata kolola nakaleta kololele mongolo opoka kololele kwa teko COVID ya ame fio policía hasate tapo mango du maska se okukale kapo oveta nilandula fano opo malo katu spreading o COVID na tulungife ni maska na tiko shenike enyala na tu kaleniko kuleka shona opo katu spreading o virus.
The Chief Inspector further advised the group on the right procedures to follow when seeking to meet with the head of state in person.
It's abandonment issues.
Is moontlik.
Al ons moeite met die sprokies. Ek probeer so hard om my kind gelukkig te maak, maar ek kry dit nie reg nie.
Probeer net help dis al.
Jy doen niks sonder bymotiewe nie.
So jy hou van die tattoo?
Nee. Maar jy kan nie liefde koop nie. En beslis nie myne nie. Jy regular.
Am I that predictable?
Jy is 'n gereelde klant en ons net so 'n manier om koffie te drink.
How do you like your coffee?
Gewoonlik swart sonder suiker.
Does black and bitter only pertain to your coffee preference?
Ek hou maar net van my koffie sonder melk. Hoe gaan dit 'n bal raak slaan na 2 glase wyn?
That was part of my plan.
Wat? Om haar tipsy te maak sodat jy kan wen.
I'm terrible at putt-putt.
Poultry farming continues to be amongst the most popular businesses in the northern parts of Namibia as it contributes to household food security and poverty alleviation. Agri on One had the pleasure to meet a small-scale poultry farmer from the Zambezi region who shared guidelines on how to overcome the challenges within a poultry business as well as the different types of poultry farming.
Richard Kabinda, who hails from the Zambezi region, started farming village chickens in 2018.
At that time, poultry was just for my personal use, for my home use. It was not for sale. But then we started first with the village chicken, then we went on to the layers and to do the broilers. But the layers at that time, there was no market for at the point of laying chicken. We had to buy from Zambia, Lusaka. So we bought 550 from Zambia that we maintained from 2019 up to the end of 2020. So somewhere this year, February, March, that's when we ordered the second bunch of the layers. At the moment, we are keeping about 350 layers, which is giving us about 210 to 250 eggs per day.
Kabinda also elaborated on the difference between breeding layer and broiler chickens.
Layers are very sensitive in the sense that when you are not able to feed them with their right feed, for 2-3 days, you will see the response to that in production. The production numbers lowers down, and they lower to at least 2 to 3 days after you have started feeding to recover. And so it is so important that our suppliers for feed must always be on top of their game, because if they don't, we, the consumers who buy from them, we suffer in terms of production. Again, the same thing goes to the broilers. The broilers also are business chicken that you must keep for 7 weeks. And so for you to keep to that 7 weeks, you must feed them constantly, so that by the end of 7 weeks, they have achieved or attained the right weight, which we always aim at 2.5 kilograms.
According to Kabinda, the biggest challenge he faces is the lack of veterinary medication in the area.
And welcome to the She Word, the show where we discuss trending topics amongst women across Africa. Girl, 7 years old. Do you know why you're here?
In 1997,
I was filmed by an American news crew at the place I was being held, a shrine run by a priest dedicated to the worship of deities. I was labeled a Chukoshi, a wife of the gods, paying for a crime committed by a family member.
Okay. The purpose of sharing my story was to say, you know, you may have gone through something, a traumatic experience. You are still able to have life. You have life, you can live life, you can contribute to society, and that's what it should be about. It's not really about like victimizing because I honestly don't like watching it.
In other leading stories, the Namibia Media Trust welcomes the resolution proposed by the government to the 21st session of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization General Conference, which is currently underway in Paris, France. The resolution seeks endorsement by the conference of the Windhoek Plus 30 Declaration on Information as a public good, and further requests the Director General of UNESCO to ensure that support is given to activities that will facilitate the achievement of the goals of this declaration. NMT encourages other member states of UNESCO to rally behind the resolution to ensure unanimous adoption, showing thereby the international community's recognition of the key issues of times where information and communication play such an increasingly important role in democracy and sustainable development. The Windhoek Plus 30 Declaration was adopted in Namibia on the 3rd of May 2021 and marked the 30th anniversary of the 1991 Windhoek Declaration on promoting an independent and pluralistic African press. The declaration elaborates on critical new and historic challenges to freedom of expression, which require concerted global action by all stakeholders, and calls for renewed global commitment to freedom of expression, press freedom and freedom of information. Importantly, it also contains recommendations on promoting transparency and accountability in internet companies. NMT applauds the commitment shown by the government to the promotion of press freedom, freedom of expression and access to information, elements that are critical to the achievement and sustainability of the country's development goals.
You've got to be anything, he should be everything. Strength provider, the architect of every ring. Experience penny yellow, see the face of God in living.
I pray to God for my enemy. Why you're ready, why you're baby, why not baby? Insta baby, Insta baby, Insta baby. Why you lying? Shake what your mama gave ya. Everybody move what your mama gave ya. Everybody shake what your mama gave ya. Everybody move, yet lost fact.
You are now watching the V10 Countdown.
I'm Debula. So let's get on the road with this. Having someone who likes what you like can be great. It gives you something to chat about and share with each other, yeah? But what if you both want to be at the very top of what you're doing and your main rival is your brother? Can you imagine?
Mount Nyiragongo, located in the Democratic Republic of Congo, is one of the most active volcanoes in the world. It's found in the Virunga Mountains and located 6 miles from Goma. So what caused Mount Nyiragongo to erupt?
This is Women in African Music virtual exhibition. It was created by the British-Nigerian documentary photographer Michael Tubes.
Women in African Music exhibition is about celebrating women behind the scene and women performing on the stage.
Are you a CMAS member? Did you know that should you need medical treatment, you have access to quality private hospitalization, guaranteed specialist treatment in private hospitals across Namibia with Compliment Gap. Compliment Gap is a complimentary product for CMAS members only, which covers the shortfall between what CMAS pays and private hospitals charge. You and your family have more than 2 million in medical gap cover per year at a very affordable price. That's not all. You also have access to emergency evacuation within Namibia and $10 million international travel cover for those unforeseen events abroad. Take the financial burden off your shoulders, invest in your family's health. SMS GAP to 999 555 and we'll contact you. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi there, parents. Do you have primary school kids and want them to get extra quality supplementary lessons to up their grades? Then simply switch to One Africa TV's #LearnOn1, where your kids can get maths, English and science lessons every weekday from 9 to 11 a.m. with repeats from 2 to 4 p.m. And thanks to NMH's MyZone, these lessons are 100% Namibian. There's so much to learn with #LearnOn1. Invite learning in.
And on the business front, the Namibian government has issued a notice of award stating its intention to appoint Hydrogen Energy as preferred bidder to develop the country's first large-scale vertically integrated green hydrogen project in the Tsaukai National Park. The project, worth an estimated $9.4 billion, will ultimately produce 300,000 tons of green hydrogen per year for regional and global markets.
The announcement followed a competitive tender process and following the conclusion of mandatory legislative processes and the entering into of the relevant contractual agreement will afford Hyphen the right to construct and operate the project for a 40-year period following the conclusion of the feasibility study and sign-off from the government. Hyphen CEO Marco Raffinetti says the first phase, which is expected to enter production in 2026, will see the creation of 2 gigawatts of renewable electricity generation capacity to produce green hydrogen for conversion into green ammonia at an estimated capital cost of $4.4 billion. Further expansion phases in the late 2020s will expand combined renewable generation capacity to 5 gigawatts and 3 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity, increasing the combined total investment to $9.4 billion. Once fully developed, the project will provide a major boost to Namibia in terms of foreign direct investment and job creation. The $9.4 billion investment amounts to the same order of magnitude of the country's current GDP and will see nearly 15,000 direct jobs created during the 4-year construction of both phases, with a further 3,000 jobs created permanently during the operational phase. More than 90% of all these jobs created are expected to be filled by Namibians. In addition to taxes, Hyphen will pay concession fees, royalties, a sovereign wealth fund contribution, and an environmental levy to the government.
Oranje-Munt, established in 1936, from which point onward CDM, now Namdeb Diamond Corporation, provided every service, the schooling, infrastructure and entertainment required for the people of the town. The winds of change is blowing over Oranje-Munt, which is no longer a closed town.
This ship was commandeered by King Jao III, and he actually sent a knight to Spain to go and fetch some money from investors, because they wanted to go and fetch some spices in India.
When we were kids, the mine delivered milk, bread, and black paper, black plastic bags for your rubbish, and cleaned your garden, did the maintenance of your house. You had furniture already installed in your house.
And on the business front, the Namibian government has issued a notice of award stating its intention to appoint Hyphen Hydrogen Energy as preferred bidder to develop the country's first large-scale vertically integrated green hydrogen project in the Tsaukai National Park. The project, worth an estimated $9.4 billion, will ultimately produce 300,000 tons of green hydrogen per year for regional and global markets.
The announcement followed a competitive tender process and following the conclusion of mandatory legislative processes and the entering into of the relevant contractual agreement will afford Hyphen the right to construct and operate the project for a 40-year period following the conclusion of the feasibility study and sign-off from the government. Hyphen CEO Marco Raffinetti says the first phase, which is expected to enter production in 2026, will see the creation of 2 gigawatts of renewable electricity generation capacity to produce green hydrogen for conversion into green ammonia at an estimated capital cost of $4.4 billion. Further expansion phases in the late 2020s will expand combined renewable generation capacity to 5 gigawatts and 3 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity, increasing the combined total investment to $9.4 billion. Once fully developed, the project will provide a major boost to Namibia in terms of foreign direct investment and job creation. The $9.4 billion investment amounts to the same order of magnitude of the country's current GDP and will see nearly 15,000 direct jobs created during the 4-year construction of both phases, with a further 3,000 jobs created permanently during the operational phase. More than 90% of all these jobs created are expected to be filled by Namibians. In addition to taxes, Hyphen will pay concession fees, royalties, a sovereign wealth fund contribution, and an environmental levy to the government.
Stories matter, and for 18 years, One Africa has been sharing people, conservation, Namibia-centric stories to audiences that appreciate it and that understand why these stories matter. Thank you, One Africa, for 18 years of sharing really, really important Namibian stories. Happy 18th birthday, One Africa TV.
Early this morning, woke up holding my head, hearing my heartbeat all night long. Shades of this motel keeping me in bed, reading the news, just trying to stay strong. I need to just get up, take a deep breath, keep it together, 'cause it's a beautiful day. Sun on my face, feeling okay. Don't let it get away. It's a beautiful day. Feel so proud, screaming out loud. It's a beautiful day. Feel so proud, screaming out loud. It's a beautiful day.
Castro Lumbu is standing by for today's sports update.
Welcome to Sports on One. I'm your host, Castro Olumbu. Part 5 of the MTC Nesta Sunshine Boxing Academy's Together as One Boxing Bonanza will take center stage at Valves Bay this December. Aiming to develop young boxers into world champions, the boxing showpiece, now in its second year, recently saw a rematch between Iron Fist John Jolonimus against the experienced Anthony Jarman. Today on One Sports has more on this story. Announcing the 5th edition of the Together as One Boxing Bonanza, promoter Nesta Tobias emphasized on his commitment to develop young boxers from the stable. The event will be headlined by the newly crowned WBO Super Bantamweight champion Mateus the Beast Hater, who knocked out Northern-based MTC Kilimanjaro Boxing Club's Julius Chifeni in the 6th round in their 10-round bout. Hater will take on Tinashe Mwadziwana for the WBO Pan-Africa Super Bantamweight title in his hometown of Valves Bay.
We're the MTC Sunshine. Our program is based on development to groom the youth, you know. I'm also happy if I can see other stables. They're also very blessed with the youth, and they are developing the youth also. Yeah, if you can see our last card, we have 15 bouts, and the most was dominated by the youth. So, and that's where we get also our next main bout. So that means our boxing is in good hands, and the future is just bright, you know, because you cannot just rely on old guys, you know. So it's why we depend on the old guys, but we're also grooming the youth. Come the 4th, he's gonna shine in front of his parents, in front of his friends, in front of his leaders in Valves Bay. So it's also just a good indication that we at MT Sunshine, we give everybody the opportunity to shine. On the undercard, we're also gonna have 3 national titles. That is also attention we give to the national title. You know, we had 1 title on the 16th, but coming the 4th, we're going to have 3 national titles. Most of boxers, they will come from the coast, Swakopmund, Arandes, Valves Bay. You know, when you go outside Windhoek, it's also extra expensive, you know. That is not to say we don't want to go outside Windhoek. Just we're also limited when it comes to budget. Yeah, but that should not be an excuse. Because when you say boxing belongs to the whole nation, and you hold all the boxing event in Windhoek, then you say, oh, it's Namibia only Windhoek. So Namibia is the whole country, you know. So we have to go out and enjoy with the other Namibians, and we're gonna do it that. And for sure after this one, the next one after this one, I don't think it's gonna be in Windhoek also.
At the announcement, the mayor of Walvis Bay welcomed the boxing showpiece to the town and pledged full support towards the event.
I was very pleased when you came to my office through Mr. Knowledge Pinga that introduced us, and meeting the young man, I can surely see greatness, and I can see that he will go very far. The business community of Walvis Bay, I would like to encourage all of you to really come on board, support these young athletes. This boy is from Walvis Bay. He will be he is an extraordinary fighter, and I can see great things in his future to come. Like Mr. Nestor just said, he will be the youngest international champion. Surely the title is coming home to Walvis Bay. And just to thank all of you, media present, MTC, thank you for opening your wallets. That's very important. I think that's the most important part, and that you're always contributing to such events. And surely Walvis Bay, we are capable to host this. From the side of the council, we will be assisting also in hosting of this event where we can, trying to help with accommodation, and then also providing the venue, Mr. Nestor. So we'll see what more we can do.
The Together as One Part 5 Boxing Bonanza is scheduled to take place in Walvis Bay at the Faceb Community Hall. And that is all we have for you tonight. Join us again tomorrow for Sports on One, and don't forget to follow us on our social media pages.
Thanks, Castro, for that update. Up next is the weather forecast.
A look at the weather forecast. First, an advisory from the Windhoek Met Office. Heavy storms are most likely in the Otterthonjupa and Omaheke regions, so please do take the necessary precautions. The Namibia interior fine and hot in the west and southwestern half. Elsewhere partly cloudy and hot with a few to isolated thunder showers. Fresh westerly winds are expected over the west. The coast partly cloudy and warm to hot, and the wind moderate northwesterly to southerly. Now a look at minimum and maximum temperatures across the country and beyond.
And that's all we have for you. Do join us again for a repeat at 9:30 this evening, and the Omnibus Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. From me, Isai Sipunga, and the rest of the team. Till next time, good night.
The International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM.
A decade might seem short, but being consistent for over 3,650 days is an accomplishment we are proud of. As the Communications Regulatory Authority of Namibia, we have committed ourselves to being the trusted source that regulates telecommunication services and networks, including broadcasting, postal services, and the allocation of radio spectrum. Welcome to our world. Since its inception, CRAN has issued 58 telecommunication service licenses, 14 community radio service licenses, 1 signal distributor, and 20 commercial broadcasting service licenses, providing a wide range of services throughout Namibia. CRAN established a solid regulatory framework for digital terrestrial television channel transition and developed a comprehensive frequency division scheme, which other SADC regulators used as standard. SADC adopted a financial model developed by CRAN to fund the communication regulators of Southern Africa's 5-year strategic plan.
CRAN regulates the provision of postal services, telecommunication services, as well as broadcasting in terms of radio and television. We are also responsible for the allocation of radio spectrum, which is utilized for the provision of broadcasting and telecommunication services.
The model is used as the basis for determining the annual fee for each SADC member country. And more recently, CRAN established the regulatory framework for digital audio broadcasting, paving the way for broadcast access to a digital world. CRAN hit another milestone when it reached 120% mobile penetration rate in the country. This was achieved by CRAN establishing regulatory frameworks to create an environment that promotes fair competition, as evidenced by the termination rate in Namibia dropping from 1.06 cents to 0.10 cents for mobile and fixed operators from January 2009 to October 2016. In addition, CRAN has also facilitated the expansion and digitization of ICT infrastructure and introduced a 4th-generation technology to the country. And with CRAN finalizing the numbering scheme and portability regulatory framework for Namibia, once implemented, consumers will be able to easily switch between networks.
In the last 10 years, the convergence between the IT world and the telecommunications world, especially now with the advent of our new emergency technologies, which is not only 5G. We also have your high altitude platforms, we have satellite, we have internet, and it's all converging into one line, followed by digital broadcasting.
We can attribute our success to a very passionate and dedicated team. We've put all the regulations in place, we can move forward, and we can provide the nation with affordable prices, quality of service, and all the benefits that ICT brings.
The Child Online Protection Campaign provided information on how, why, and what to do in instances where children's rights and safety are violated. The campaign provided information for parents and guardians on how to protect their children from cyberbullying and provided general information on how to protect their children online. The consumer education campaign Own It, the Right to Connect, was intended to empower, inform, and engage consumers and to make them aware of the rights, responsibilities, and obligations of consumers. Whereas the Consumer is King campaign aimed to raise awareness about the consumer complaint procedure. CRAN mission, media, law, and educate potential stakeholders about the license application procedures. Another landmark achievement was the agreement signed in July 2020, which resulted in the successful conclusion of CRAN and the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding with the Namibia Civil Aviation Authority that authorizes regulations and the governing relationship between the two entities regarding all communications in flight, during approach, during landing, and takeoff of an aircraft in the Namibian sky. CRAN also signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Customs and Taxation to ensure that all telecommunications equipment imported into the country meets the minimum quality standards required. Similarly, the signing of the Performance and Governance Agreement in October 2020 between the Board of Directors of CRAN and the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology plays a role and is an instrument through which the government of the Republic of Namibia holds public officials accountable for the conditions enumerated in the agreement whilst enabling the relationship to continue. Over the past 10 years, CRAN has complied with all statutory requirements, including submitting annual reports and budgets to the Line Minister. The COVID-19 pandemic is putting a strain on educational institutions, especially to provide access to digital resources to enable learners to be educated through online platforms. In 2020, the demand for access to information has increased as it has become a major issue in health, education, and communication-related issues. There is an ever-growing need for the ICT sector to create easier, cheaper, and higher quality access to ICT products and services to allow e-learning, information dissemination, and connecting people who could not be met face-to-face. Therefore, CRAN has worked to adapt policies and regulations to respond to the demand. CRAN has launched various partnerships with higher education institutions to build skills and capabilities in ICT policy, regulation, and management. CRAN won 2 awards in 2017. The first award was for the company that employs the most student interns in the country and was awarded by the Institute of People Management. The second award was the Golden Key Award, the most open and transparent public institution with universal access to information. It was awarded by the Southern African Media Institute. Here's to another 10 years of striving to give Namibians the best.
She said she's super bad, but she needing that guy screaming like whoa. Shawty super bad, booty super fat, driving pretty like whoa. I get a kitty so wet, now she be wet like a pool. Shawty straight into her neck, cause it was something to do. Beat it super fast, call me super smash, swimming in the ocean. I've been drinking, man, blame it on the Porsche. Look at the shit that we doing, gotta disturbing the neighbors like. Hoping that I'm not a nuisance. Way I be making her scream all night. Already know that you be a freak, so baby girl, I am glad that you got it. Girl, I wanna see you pop like and drop it, then baby just rotate around it. Just pour me a glass of that liquor, then make it nasty. Yeah, just pour me a glass of that liquor, then make it nasty. We ball all the time. Never been an issue for us. Your bitch out of line. Never been an issue for us. You know